Welcome to Healdish, the space where healing gets real and you don't have to have it all together to grow. Each week we explore the nervous system, emotional resilience, and the journey from surviving to thriving. You're not broken, you're healing, and you don't have to do it alone. This is Healdish. Let's begin. Good, happy Monday, everyone. How is everyone doing? I am doing fantastic. Doing really good for a Monday. Tired, but I'm good, and things like that too. So sorry, my I don't know what it is. Like the Wi-Fi has been really wonky lately. The computer has been really wonky lately, and so I apologize for all of the technical difficulties that I always have getting on here. So it just stinks. Hi, Heather. Hello, Scott, Dave. Let me see. I believe Michael's on here. Yep, Michael. And good evening to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being here. It means a lot to me. Oh, that's so funny, Dave. That's so funny. Well, if you and I should have said if you and Scott, even Michael, you guys are if you guys are up for a road trip. I don't even know. Like can't never remember where Michael lives. But I know you guys live way on the East Coast. If you're up for a trip, you should come to Ohio Saturday. We're having a banging get together, and it's going to be amazing. And karaoke, all kinds of stuff. No fishing, though. I mean, you might, but be all right. You get to hang out with us, Mr. and Mrs. Sly Fox, and about 50 other people. So, no. But anyway, it's an open invitation for each and every one of you. So, there you go. All right. So, how's everyone doing on this fine Monday? I'm used to it being here it is, I mean, I know it's 20 till 8, but I'm used to having my curtains open and being out here in my office and being able to look outside and it's still light out. And unfortunately, we really are getting into fall, and it's kind of heartbreaking to me because I'm looking out my window, my curtains are still open, and I'm like, wow, it's dark as can be out there. And so the reality of the summer has come to an end. Fall is really starting to take over. Even though the temperatures don't really match, it's just sad to see that, here it is at 7:30 at night, and it's dark when I'm used to it being like almost 8:30, 9 o'clock. And it's like, oh, I'm not ready for fall. I'm not ready for the colder weather and things like that. And things. So, and especially my heart goes out to those that have, seasonal depression. And we talked about this, a few weeks ago and things like that. And so, I'll save that for another check-in, later on and stuff like that. So, so you're a New Yorker. Ah, nice. Oh, so you're on dog duty. See, well, you could always bring the dog. That's funny. I'm glad she's able to get out and stuff like that too. It's really, really a good self-care when you can get out and, go camping and just being out in nature in general, just being out, whether you're walking trails, you're just sitting in the grass, tree hugging, whatever you're doing. It's just really, really uplifting and a really good self-care regimen for anything like that you're doing. And that's why so many of you love fishing. That's why I love the art, because it kind of does the same thing. A lot of times, again, I will do it while I'm sitting outside because then I get the best of both worlds, which is really nice, which is really good. So, I didn't know that. Oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that he was only an hour from you guys. See, I'll have to remember this. I'm going to blame that on trauma brain. I know that you told me once before and things like that, which is pretty cool. So one day, hopefully we can all get together and get together and go fishing and all of that stuff and bring your spouses, kids, whatever you want to do. You want to come solo, and things like that too. But it would just be pretty cool to have everybody kind of hanging out and stuff like that too, because I know some people can't, they can't travel far. So So hopefully, yeah, that would be pretty cool. So anyway, if you're new, let me introduce myself before I get off on this tangent and stuff like that and everything like that. And so if you are new here, my name is Gina. I'm a certified neurotransformative practitioner, and I am a certified art therapeutic art practitioner. Ugh, have to add that one in there as well. And so I want to say welcome to Heal Dish. And this is where we explore the raw, real truth about trauma. And we do it in a kind of in a beautiful process, through the process of trauma healing, nervous system repair. And that's what we do here. We talk about real, raw truth about childhood trauma, adult trauma, how it correlates to mental health. There's so many after effects of trauma that people don't even know that exist. And so, coming from a neurobiology, neurophysiology, and neuroscience perspective, I bring the education piece. And then, I bring in from a life experience perspective as a trauma survivor as well. And so, welcome to tonight's episode of Is it laziness or trauma response? And so tonight's episode is for those that, you're kind of wondering, I can't get motivated. I find myself kind of laying around doing absolutely nothing. Um, Maybe you work all day and then you come home and you're just kind of sitting and you're like kind of unwinding, but then you just sit and sit and sit. Are you those ones that, um, uh, yeah, sorry. I seen Scott's comment says come to Vermont. Yeah, I'll come there in 5 feet of snow. No, so it's yeah, maybe you never know. And stuff like that. So welcome, Fifth and Grace Tarot and Spiritual Straight Talk. It's so good to have you. We were talking earlier today and her and I, and I'm so glad to see you on the chat as well. So welcome, welcome, welcome. There's a problem in our country, in the world, I should say, but just in the country, our medical system is broken. There are so many people out there that need mental health. There's so many people out there that really need, be able to go to the doctor and stuff like that. But unfortunately, they don't, because a lot of these doctors aren't trauma informed. And so they continue to be re-traumatized over and over and over and over, just like we talked about last week with myself. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. Several of us have gone to the doctors and they have said things. And then they re-traumatize you. And then you're like, whoa, wait a minute, I'm not going back again. And so unfortunately, it has nothing to do with you. It just has to do with that we have an unfortunate broken system. Our medical system is just broken. Our healthcare system broken. And so, I want to be able to bring real education, again, from a neuroscience, neurobiology, and neurophysiology perspective, and with life experiences, because I really feel like a lot of people can connect. There's a lot of people that unfortunately have maybe like severe panic, severe anxiety, which is what severe panic is. It's a really severe form of anxiety. And some of those people unfortunately can't leave their homes. And so this may be the only time they get to see things and hear things about how they can get on their recovery journey, how they can heal. And so, again, I like to be just real and raw and truthful in everything that I do, and things like that too. I've been doing this for 4 years, and sometimes, I have so much knowledge, but then I was like, wait a minute, is it in there? Is it in there? And then I, kind of have to do these podcasts, and I'm like, yeah, I guess it still is in there, and things like that. Because sometimes we get imposter syndrome, and we doubt ourselves and stuff like that. And so tonight's episode again is it laziness or trauma response? And so, have you ever felt frozen, unmotivated, or ashamed for not doing enough? Again, do you work and then you come home and then you just kind of want to sit around? Are you unmotivated to actually do anything else? And then you're just like, man, I really wish I could do something else. But it's like the mind's telling you yes, but your body's telling you no, or vice versa. And then you're like, wait a minute, I don't know what's going on. So this conversation might reframe everything you thought you knew about yourself. And so sometimes trauma survivors, this is what happens. Because sometimes the problem isn't a lack of discipline, it's a nervous system. We've been talking about the nervous system. We've been learning about what safety looks like, protection, what happens when the prefrontal cortex isn't operating correctly, the amygdala, all of that when the amygdala is stuck in fight or flight because it's hijacked because of the hippocampus, and then your limbic system is all out of whack, your vagus nerve, so everything together, the whole entire body. And so again, it's learning what safety feels like. So we're going to dive into this because this is what we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks is all about nervous system. It goes back to nervous system dysregulation. It goes back to safety. It goes back to protection. It goes back to what actually works to get you out of those fight, flight, fawn, and freeze. When you're ruminating, when you have chronic pain, when your mind won't stop ruminating, it's a protection barrier. It's a safety mechanism. It's your body's safety defense. So let's start with honesty. How many times have you told yourself, I'm just lazy? Anybody? Because I know that voice well. And actually, for a long time, I believed it. And it was way before I knew about trauma. It was way before I knew about, nervous system dysregulation. And so all of that. And so I would say, oh, I can't take a nap. Because if I take a nap after I might have just cleaned the whole entire house, I can't take a nap because, oh, I should be doing something else. I can't watch TV because if I watch TV and the dishes aren't done, then I'm being lazy. I can't do this because this isn't finished. And it was just a ruminating cycle. It was just a ruminating cycle. So as I began to understand what trauma and the nervous system, how it works, how it goes hand in hand, what I started to realize is that laziness was actually my body trying to protect me. And it's interesting, that all of this, it's really, really interesting. How all of this happens. And it's just like, man. And so, yes, my narcissistic mother has called me lazy my whole life. Yeah. And those things stick with us. And people, some people don't understand that. I've shared before that, I've had a lot of people in my life that have downgraded me. And they would call me fat. They would call me ugly. They would call me stupid. And just there was other names, but I'm just going to leave them out. But there was a lot of other rude names, very, very inappropriate names. And it took me 3/4 of my life. I mean, I will be 50 in November. And it literally took me 4 years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, probably 4 years ago, I'm going to say, before I really, really, really started loving myself. Before I really would look in the mirror and say, you know what, Gina, you're beautiful. And I don't care what anybody thinks. You can say that I'm ugly, and that's fine because that's what you think. But sometimes it's a reflection of you, not me. And so, that's building my confidence because I can look in the mirror and I can say, you know what, Gina, wow, you're beautiful. And that's what you guys should be doing too. And it took me a long time to actually feel it, to feel that I was beautiful. After somebody has teared you down. Was that a word? Tear? Has torn you. Sorry, had to think for a minute. I was like, oop, yep, torn you down. Oop, proper English. For somebody that has torn you down your whole entire life, it's hard to undo those cycles. Very, very hard. And as you see, it's taken me, 45 years, to really boost up who I am. And so, and it really shows because, and, my daughter is very, she doesn't care. Like, she dresses how she wants. And I love it because she has her own style. She's very confident in what she wears, very confident in the way she presents herself. And I love that. And if you ask her who her role model is, she will say me. And so I must have been doing something right. And there's times that I'll even say things, that, oh, I'm ugly or I'm fat or something like that. And she'd say, no, you're not, mom. Stop saying that to yourself. And then I have to like, probably having a bad day, obviously, the enemy's probably all over me and stuff. But I just love her positivity and her, her positive body image and just overall just how she is. And so it's just so heartwarming when she says that to me, because I'm like, really? Even when I was going through my own struggles, I always tried to make sure that my children knew who they were, that they were beautiful, that they were remarkable and all that. And so, it's just unfortunate that we had to go through those things, and those things do carry over. And those inner critic, that's what shapes our inner critic. A lot of it, is biological and environmental. And so that's what shapes us, unfortunately. And so I'm sorry that you had to endure that as well, because it's never no fun at all. And so when we live in survival mode, which is what we've been talking about a lot lately, and so when you live in survival mode, what ends up happening is you become an expert at conserving energy. So what happens? You have all this energy, and then all of a sudden the energy starts. You're cleaning your whole entire house, and then it's like boom. Now the energy's gone. Now what happens? And so what happens is you have to learn to slow down. And what's happening is when you slow down, you're disconnecting or avoiding, because that's the safest option for you. And so people don't like to slow down because why not? It's a lot of people don't like to sit. Sorry, I got a fly in here. It's driving me bananas too. A lot of people don't like to sit with that. They don't like to sit with the uncomfortableness of just slowing down, disconnecting and avoiding things, do they? None of us do. I mean, I've shared that before several times. I'm like, there is no way I want to sit. Nope. But within the last 6 months, maybe a year, I started really sitting down and saying, okay, this is what I want to do. And I really start looking at things and listen to my body, listen to what my mind is saying, listen to my body, which is the somatic portion of it, and which is part of the neurophysiology as well. And so I sit there and say, and then I'll sit there and be like, okay, what's going on? So I understand better, because if you don't sit with your body and understand what's going on, your body's never going to shift from surviving to thriving. You're always going to stay in that survival mode. And so, that's why, again, that I do this, because nervous system regulation is huge, huge. For my other podcast that I'm going to start doing for the art, I'm actually not going to do it on Healdish. So I created a second podcast or a second YouTube. It's called the nervous system regulate. Oh, I think it's called the Nervous System Regulation Studio, or the Nervous System something studio. I don't remember what it is. Sorry. The nervous system. Oh, the Nervous System Reset Studio. That's what it's called. I had to think for a minute. And so, that's what we do here, but that will be more about my neurosomatic art. And so, they do go hand in hand in what I do. But this, I feel like, is more of the education piece. That'll be more of the education, but the somatic piece. And so I decided to separate them and things like that too. And so, yeah. And so when we do learn that slowing down, disconnecting, and avoiding, what happens is it's not a character flaw. It's actually neurobiology. So it means that your body's not against you. It's trying to keep you safe with the tools you've learned during chaos or pain. And so when we go back to coping skills, what are the things that you do? What do you do when you have a lot of chaos, when you have a lot of pain? What do you normally do? So for me, I want you to kind of ask yourself that question. So for me, if there's a lot of chaos, I will draw it out. I will use, as you see in the corner over here. I point this out because I probably will never finish this, because once you start it, you need to finish it. This is neurosomatic art. I never finished it, but I will eventually do another one. And I'll probably end up framing this one just as it is, but that's about 3 hours in. And so when I get irritated, when I can't sleep, when I can just feel my body going haywire, I will draw. And I will draw because of what the neurosomatic art does. So not only does it have, for some reason, I don't know why my brain is like just like disconnected. Sorry. The neuroplasticity, but it's got neurogenesis. And so as you are drawing, it's actually creating new neural pathways while it's repairing them as well. So it works on everything. Works on the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system, the vagus nerve, the right and left hemispheres of the brain, flow state, which means it takes you out of that fight, flight, fawn, and freeze stage, and gets you really into what you're drawing. And so, what do you do? What coping skills do you have, or what do you do when you have chaos and pain? So, what do you do? Because if you don't have coping skills, what's happening is you're not going to know how to feel safe when those things arise. What are you doing to help yourself? So before you judge yourself for being unmotivated, we need to understand what's happening under the surface, right? So what is the root cause of all this? And so what's really happening in the brain? Why is this happening? And so let's talk a little bit about the neuroscience, and so we can help you understand exactly what's going on, what's taking place, how it kind of all ties together. Because a lot of people, neuroscience, you've like, oh, I've never heard about that. Neurobiology, oh, never heard about that. Neurophysiology, oh, never heard about that either. But let's talk about a little bit about neuroscience. And so before we go further, I want to share a little bit about what neuroscience is. And I don't want to get too technical, but because understanding what's happening in the brain can help you release so much shame. And so what happens is we have talked about this in the past. We've talked about part of the brain called the anterior cingulate cortex, or the ACC. And what you can think of is this as a bridge. So it's kind of a bridge between your emotional brain and your logical brain. So here is the ACC, here is the emotional brain, here is the logical brain. And what it does is it helps you notice what you feel, focus your attention, and decide what to do next. So it's kind of like the prefrontal cortex is for your logical thinking, executive functioning, and all of that stuff too. Well, if this is offline because of your trauma, it's underdeveloped, then your ACC, the anterior cingulate cortex, is not going to be functioning either. So when you live through trauma, the bridge can get disrupted. So it's the same thing. So when the prefrontal cortex is not working, neither does the ACC. So your body may still be on high alert, and the ACC doesn't. What happens is it doesn't communicate as smoothly with the rest of your brain. And so when I say, like, I have trauma brain, somebody else might have it too, but that's how I kind of talk about how my brain is. Like now I'm like, wait a minute, like I'm trying to think of something and my brain is just like totally blank. And I'm like, this is freaking me out because I have no idea why. But then you wonder why I have notes. Because my trauma brain gets all over the place. And maybe it's because it's dark out and I'm so used to it being light. I'm going to blame it on the dark. That okay? I didn't think you'd mind anyway. All right. So it doesn't communicate as smoothly with the rest of your brain. And so now you're left with, what do you do? So what happens? You start the project, you clean the house, you send the email. That's what you want to do, right? But then you can't seem to do it. You have good intentions, but then you're overwhelmed. And then you're like doom strolling for 4 hours and you're like, dang it. And that 4 hours, I could have cleaned the bathroom. I could have done a load of laundry, did the dishes, cooked dinner. I could have swept the floor. I could have sent that email. I could have created that video. But instead, you just couldn't get up to do anything. How many of you has had that happen to you before? Anyone? So I kind of used to be like that. I would sit for hours and hours, and I really would consider myself lazy. Again, until I started learning about trauma and the nervous system. And then when I started getting into my complex trauma training, I started learning about the prefrontal cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex. And I started learning about the relationship with all of those, the relationship that trauma has with them, and how, that bridge gets disruptive. And then it's like, well, wait a minute, because if you think about it, like your executive functioning, your logical thinking, all of that stuff, we all need that in everyday life, and it's not working properly. And then you have your ACC that's disrupted as well. That causes a bunch of chaos in your life. So I just want to say that you're not lazy. What's happening is it's your brain's motivational system trying to protect you. But what is it trying to protect you from? That's why you need to sit with it and figure out what is wrong. But hopefully tonight you'll get some of your answers as well, which will be pretty cool for you as well. And so, the amazing thing is the ACC is flexible. So what happens is with safety, regulation, and compassion, those neural pathways rebuild. But they rebuild by doing something to help them rebuild. So it goes off of, again, mindfulness, neurosomatic art, breath work. What are you doing to rebuild them? What are you doing to regenerate them? What are you doing? Again, breath work. You're breathing through the overwhelm. You're creating art, which is working your whole entire body. And then what you want to do is you want to show yourself kindness instead of criticism, because that bridge builds strength. So again, there's mindfulness, there's breath work, there's art, there's a tons of things that you can do. And why I always bring up those three is because mindfulness, you're doing something different. You're being mindful of what you're doing, but you're literally doing something different than you normally do. Breath work, the same thing. Breath work starts really, it activates your deep breath, your deep breathing, and it starts activating and releasing whatever the trapped trauma, the trapped emotions are somatically in your body. Art does all three of those things plus more. And so, if you're criticizing yourself, you're just keeping yourself kind of stuck in this cycle of this trauma response. And really being kind to yourself and being compassionate with yourself. Those are the things that are going to kind of get you moving in the right direction. So what you could say is, my nervous system is learning to feel safe to move again. Or I always like to add yet at the end of the sentence. I'm not there yet. My nervous system is learning to be safe, and I'm not there yet. So what that shows is it's not a weakness, it's the neuroscience in action. It's your healing in action. And that's one thing that you really have to take into consideration, what that is. And so you really have to be kind. You really have to be compassionate with yourself. For those and stuff there, and kind of helping you. And so I do want to talk to you just a little bit deeper about the anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC. So because I think if you understand a little bit more than just, the little bit of information that I gave you, I think it would open up to show you just how powerful it is for us, like why we need it, why it's so powerful, why we need it, and help you kind of understand. Because again, when you have your prefrontal cortex, and that is more of your, logical executive functioning and all that. And then you've got your anterior cingulate cortex, which sits, deep in the middle of the brain. And so it's kind of like, again, it's the bridge. And so what I want to show you is, if it's not working, and it's overloaded and there's a lot of chaos, or if it's underactive, and it's constantly processing threat signals to keep you safe and all of this stuff, I want you to understand exactly what happens. And so not only do you feel unmotivated, lazy, or disconnected, but you have trouble focusing and following through. You have difficulty making decisions, emotional numbing, or overactivity, because not only is it your ACC, but it's your prefrontal cortex. So it's all working together within here. And so the 4 roles are empathy and awareness, attention and cognitive, motivation and error detection, and integration between feeling and thinking. And so think about that. Understanding your emotions, it helps you to focus. And so when these types of things are not working properly, like I like to say, they're offline, you're going to have some struggles in the brain and keeping yourself motivated and doing the things um, that we need. And I know from time to time, I knew when my ACC and my my prefrontal cortex was not working. And so I knew it because it was like I couldn't get anything done. I would sit here for 10 hours a day, and I would just be like, man, I'm overwhelmed. I don't even know what to do. I'd start something and be like, I'll do something later. I always said, I got undiagnosed ADD, and I still think I do to a point, but then I wonder, even doing when I was doing my certification program, thinking, oh my goodness, I think it's my brain. It's just the trauma. It's from being in survival, and so those are things that we need to work on because it's going to continue your entire life if you don't kind of get it switched around and things like that. And so let's understand the ACC. And so imagine your brain is like a city. On one side of the city, you have your emotional center. That's where your body feels. It feels like fear and sadness, excitement. And on the other side is your thinking center. That's the part you plan, focused, and follow through. And right in between them is a bridge, and the bridge is your anterior cingulate cortex. So when life has been safe and predictable, traffic will flow easily across the bridge. Boop, both directions. Boop, 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 boop. Your emotions send a signal, and your thinking brain gets the message, helping you take action and keeping things balanced, right? So that's fine and dandy. But when you've lived through trauma, especially the kind that taught your body to stay on alert, that bridge can start to feel under construction. So that's kind of like one lane is stopped, this lane is going, that lane stops, this lane is going, kind of like we deal with construction on the highway. That's a pain in the neck from time to time. That's what it feels like. So traffic backs up, messages get delayed, and suddenly it's not that you don't care, you're unmotivated, it's that your internal bridge is trying to manage too much at one time. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to move forward and there's a block. You can't get past the barrier. You can't get past the stop on the bridge. You can't get past it because it's there. You're like, wait a minute, what can I do? I can't get across there. And so that's where it starts getting, that's where it starts affecting you, is because now it's blocked. But the good news is that your brain can actually rebuild that bridge. So again, talking about breath work, mindfulness, neurosomatic art, those are three of the things that I talk about all the time, that will help you feel safe in your body, repair the roads, which is your neural pathways. And then it's kind of adding the like the support and then opening up for those lines of communication. And so what I want you to understand is that I don't want you to force healing, and stuff like that, because if we start forcing it, then it's kind of like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't even working anyway. So I don't want you to force it on yourself. What I want you to do is just slowly start integrating new concepts. And it doesn't even have to be breath work, mindfulness, or neurosomatic art right now. You could easily start with using your non-dominant hand when you're doing things like brushing your teeth, washing your body in the shower. When you are driving to the store, take a different route. All those types of things, because that is going to help you build that mindfulness. It's going to help you it's going to help you tell your brain, oh, wait a minute, I'm doing something different. Now now you need to be awake. And it really does work. It's really amazing how all of that really does work, and stuff like that. And so, and so again, it's not that your brain is broken, it's healing. It's trying to heal from all of the traumatic experiences and circumstances that you've endured in life, that I've endured in life. And so we have to be gentle again. We have to be gentle. And so you can't be hard on yourself. You can't be judgmental. So it's time to release that. You have to learn to release the judgment and say, okay, that's not, I might not be able to do it right now, but I'll be able to soon. Kind of changing your words. Be a little bit more friendlier with yourself, more kind, more compassionate, and things like that. And so emotionally, what happens when we label ourselves as lazy, what happens is it starts rising up shame. We activate the shame response. And that's what drives our nervous system into a deeper, like like freeze response. And so what happens is that you hear me talk about the inner critic all the time. And so the brain hears that, and the inner critic interprets that as a threat. And so let's think about that. So we label ourselves as lazy. And then what happens is it drives into the nervous system. It drives deeper in, and it gives us that freeze response. So I know that you want to get off the couch and do things, but there's times you literally can't. And so when your brain hears this over and over and over and over again, the inner critic interprets that as a threat. And so that's why you can't. But you know what? When you start telling yourself, yes, I can, it starts changing us. So what it does is instead of energizing us, it actually shame paralyzes us. It keeps us deep rooted down into what's happening. And then what happens is it literally reinforces the same state that we're trying to escape. And so it keeps us embedded in that. And it sucks, trust me. It's like, kind of like you're pressing the gas pedal to go, but the parking brake is still on. You know what? You're revving like the pedal, vroom, 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 but you're not moving. That's what it feels like to be in the shame loop and the freeze response. Have you ever felt that before? And so what this is, it's actually called the dorsal vagal state. And that's the shutdown part of the vagus nerve response. And so do you see this all goes hand in hand? This all goes together. When we're talking about, is it laziness or is it really a trauma response? A lot of people don't know about the prefrontal cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex. A lot of them wouldn't tell you that it was a shame response. A lot of them don't even know it's the dorsal vagus state, which is part of the vagus nerve response. It's the shutdown part of the vagus nerve. That's why a lot of people that have anxiety and panic attacks, it's usually their vagus nerve is unbalanced. And so that's why I like the breath work and the mindfulness and the neurosomatic art, because it works on the whole entire body. And so what happens is your energy drops, your emotions go flat, and then guess what? Your brain quiets down. And then you don't want to try harder. You just want to sit there and be like, whoop, okay. And then guess what happens? It's harder to reconnect to safety and self-compassion. Because now you are like, I can't get up, I can't move, I can't do anything. So now your shame is even higher. And you're like, okay, now I can't do this. So now, because you feel like more of a failure, more of the shame response is rising up. And reconnecting makes it even harder. And so let's do a little reflection. So what I want you to do is I want you to place your hand on your heart. And I want you to whisper, I am not lazy. I'm healing. I am not lazy. I'm healing. And I want you to feel your nervous system soften, even slightly. And so when you do these things, what happens is your nervous system starts feeling safe again. So again, place your hand on your heart and whisper, I'm not lazy. I'm healing. And if you can remember those things, like I would tell my clients, because in the moment that we're triggered and our prefrontal cortex shuts off, there's a lot of times we don't remember what we're doing. But if you have something that, just say like it next to your chair, if you have something that on a bright yellow, orange, pink card, like an index card that says, I'm not lazy, I'm healing, your brain's going to see it. Even if you're not saying it out loud, your brain is going to see it repeatedly. I've had clients do that. I've had clients that have written sticky notes and stuck them on their cabinet doors in their kitchen or on their bathroom mirror. So, as they're brushing their teeth, they're seeing it. As they're getting into the cabinet, they see it. And so what it's doing, it's instilling a lot of this. You're uninstalling the old and replacing it with new. And that's what we're trying to do here. We don't want you to feel lazy. We want you to understand this is a part of the healing concept. It's a part of the healing journey. It's a part of the transformation and the restoration. But we have to understand what the root cause is. And it goes back to the nervous system dysregulation. It goes back to not feeling protected. There's no safety there. And that's what it goes back to. So let's reframe what we often call laziness, avoidance. It might be your body saying, this feels overwhelming. I need to slow down. Or is it procrastination? How many of us have procrastinated before? I will be the first one to admit I used to be a huge procrastinator. Oh my goodness. My husband can tell you what a procrastinator I would be. I would literally wait to the last minute to do anything and everything. And then I would get mad because people would get mad at me. So I'd get mad at them because they weren't allowing me to do things. For instance, I would leave. I would say, "Oh, I can get to the doctor's office in 15 minutes," and then I would leave here, and I would be 10 minutes late because of traffic instead of giving myself 30 minutes. And then I'd be late, and then they wouldn't see me, and then I'd get mad. And but I was stuck in the survival. It's not that I didn't care, but I was just like, yeah, whatever. Like, I guess in a way I didn't care. But what happens when we procrastinate, it's your anterior cingulate cortex trying to avoid emotional pain that connects to past experiences. And so the procrastination actually has a reason why you procrastinate. And I was a huge procrastinator. Even assignments, I would wait to the last minute because it was like, and maybe you guys can relate. So I would wait till the last day or 2 days before my assignment was due and hurry up and get them all together, because it was like that nervous energy that we talked about in the beginning of this podcast. That nervous energy fueled me. And I was like, oh, I'm gung ho. I can get this done. I can do this. And then I was like, yeah, I probably should have did this like a month or two ago. I probably would have got a better grade instead of waiting until, 2 days before. But that's a part of, your brain just didn't want to connect to it. You didn't want to connect to that emotional pain of the past. I'm hoping this is making sense to you, why it's a trauma response and why it looks like laziness. So low motivation could be your nervous system freeze response, conserving energy until safety is restored. Have you ever thought about that? The freeze response is a terrible, they're all terrible, don't get me wrong. But Sly and I were talking about this the other night, I believe, and I was like, out of all four of them, fight, flight, fawn, and freeze, I believe that freeze is the worst, coming from my own experience. And it might not be for somebody else, but freeze is the worst because you literally freeze. I've had that happen to me before, where you literally freeze, and I don't like that at all. I'm in the flight stage right now, and I don't like that. I'm hoping that I will be able to overcome this soon, and I can bypass the fawn stage if we even go into fawn, and I can get out of that, and I can get my nervous system where it needs to be. But unfortunately for me, I've had, when your nervous system becomes safe on your healing journey, you open up another door. And that's what's happening to me. I'm opening up another door in my healing journey that has activated my nervous system dysregulation again, that has activated some other things that is happening. And so I'm taking that into consideration and going, okay, what's going on? Where's the safety? Why is there no safety? What is going on? Where's the emotional pain connected to my past? Why can't I do this? Where is it connected to in my past? And I started making connections through my art. So I don't know, fifth stage, maybe. I'm hoping that after this stage, there is no fifth stage. I don't even want to make it to the fourth stage. It's okay. And so it's fine. But we go through those stages because it opens up the door. When we heal, we open up new doors and close other ones. And that's how our body heals. If there's no safety, it's not going to allow you to feel what it's feeling, because it knows that you're not in a safe place. Your body's not safe. Remember that. So it's not that your system isn't lazy, it's communicating with you. So really listening and paying attention to what's going on really helps. So again, like I've talked about before, the question is, what is it trying to say? Oh, yeah, that stage. Yeah. Well, that is a good stage. Yes. So what is it trying to say? That's why I always say, if you can sit with yourself for a little bit and talk to yourself, understand what's going on and why your body is communicating with you. What is it trying to tell you? Because it wants to heal. It's just under this protection state. And how amazing that our bodies do that, right? Like, how amazing. And so what I do is, when I use the neurosomatic art, when we're using the art, what it helps us do is bypass those blocks. And so again, it helps re-engage the prefrontal cortex and the ACC gently through the color flow and symbolic safety. That's why I can't stress it enough, because the drawing is what's calming, and it's literally rebalancing the brain's communication networks. And so when it does that, it's opening doors and safety in our drawings. It's opening more doors as you're drawing, as we're working through and integrating what's coming up in that drawing, and you're feeling more safe, not just with our sessions, but with me and with yourself. Sorry, not just in sessions, but with yourself. Um, alone. What happens is it starts, your body's like, okay, we've worked through this. You've sat with this. This is what's coming up. This is what I told you is coming up. Okay, time to move on. That's what ends up happening. Amazing, isn't it? So don't ever discredit the way that your brain is and your body, because it really is trying to tell you something. It's just a matter of you listening. You have to really pay attention to it. You have to listen to it and say, what are you trying to tell me? Same thing when the inner critic, when your inner critic is talking to you, and it's kind of like the yin and yang, God, the devil, whatever you want to say. You need to figure out what is it trying to protect you from. There's a deeper cause, a root cause that's deeper. And sometimes we don't know, because it's the emotional pain that it's trying to protect us from. It's trying to avoid that, because maybe you're just not there yet. The safety isn't there yet, so your body's not going to expose any of that right now. And so if you're one of those that you're not there yet, that's okay. Don't be hard on yourself. We are all at different levels, or not levels. We are all at different stages of our healing journey. Some people are just beginning. Some people it's only been a week or two. Some people it's been 4 years. Some people it's been 15 years. We're going to be on this healing journey for the rest of our lives, because as we learn to heal one portion, another portion is going to come up. But it's learning those coping skills, learning about everything we talk about here, adding new coping skills, adding other things that you can do, is what's going to help you on your healing journey. And so you'll be able to overcome those things a little bit quicker, because now you understand why it's happening. So how do we get the brain and body to connect? So let's talk about a couple things, and see micro safety moments. So every time you notice your system slowing down, pause and orient to the present moment. So what you want to do is look around and name 5 things you can see. So what this does is, it not only grounds you, but it grounds the ACC and tells your brain, I'm safe right now. So like, now that with the things that were going on with me, that's one thing that I will do. If I become activated at the doctor's office, if I become activated when I'm working with a client, which happens, and stuff like that, that is what I go to. What are 5 things I can see? It's usually like 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, like 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste, and I don't remember what the other, or 2 things I don't remember, 1 thing you can taste, something like that, whatever it is. But even saying, 5 things you can see. So you're looking around the room going, what are the 5 things I can see? What it's doing, it's diverting your attention to something else, taking it off what's going on here, and it's grounding you. And stuff, which is nice, because that's where you're telling your brain, I'm safe. That's why you see a lot of people, they love nature. They love being outside, because of all the principles, the healing, like all of the healing properties. That's why they love being outside. I think that's why I love it. I love being outside in the sun, because the sun has so many healing properties, immunity boosting, vitamin D for calcium, so many amazing things. So it's absolutely amazing. Gentle movement or art. We talked about neurosomatic art, but what about dancing, um, breath work? I'm trying to think of what else. I always, even I recommend it to my clients. I was like, you don't want to do trauma informed movements or progressive muscle relaxation. That's fine. But what about dance party? Putting on some music, belting out some tunes, and while you're dancing, in your living room, in your bedroom, whatever you want to do, because here's why. Trauma informed movement is a 3-part. So it's movement, breath, and then what you do, yeah, movement, brain, and breath. So what you're doing is as you're moving, it's activating your brain, which is activating your breath. So now, and you're doing something different is what it's doing. And so as you're activating that, and so as you're dancing, you're moving your body somatically. As you're singing, you're belting out tunes. So you're inhaling deep to belt out those tunes. So now you're working your lungs, because remember what I said last week or the week before, a lot of trauma survivors will breathe from this half of their body. When you are dancing and belting out tunes, you are going to deep breathe into the lower part of your lungs using your diaphragm. And so now you're going to increase your lung capacity. Then while you're doing that, you're expanding your brain and growing your brain. And now you are expanding and growing your brain in that area as well. And so that's a huge thing. And so what it does is it helps awaken and motivate those pathways that were like, oh, we're done, we're sleeping, without pressure. And it's fun. Dance party is fun. Even if you're not dancing, belt out some tunes in the shower. Put on some music. My son does it all the time. He's been listening to some White Snake and I don't know, Eagles and whatever else he's been listening to, and belting out tunes. I belt out a lot of Christian music. I might not be the best singer, but you know what? I get my lungs moving. And I will sing, and I don't even care who hears me, even in church. I don't care if everybody in the place can hear me. Don't matter to me. I'm singing a cheerful song. What is it? I'm singing a cheerful song up unto the Lord or something like that. So yeah. So whatever you're doing, that is just like trauma informed movements. It's a 3-part. Progressive muscle relaxation, I really like. That is for those people that have a lot of extra stress. You carry it in your shoulders, your whole entire body. It literally is a whole entire body relaxation technique. You can look it up, progressive muscle relaxation. It's an amazing, amazing tool as well. So language reframe. So instead of saying I can't get motivated, try saying my body doesn't feel safe enough yet. So here comes that yet at the end. So the one word yet signals hope and neuroplasticity. That's why I add it to the end of my sentences. I'm not there yet. I will get there. I haven't started yet, but I plan to. And so you're not giving yourself a start date or an end, a deadline. You're simply saying, okay, I'm going to do what my body allows. And then the other one is curiosity over criticism. So your anterior cingulate cortex thrives on curiosity. So when you approach your stuckness with compassion, you're literally activating the part of your brain responsible for emotional awareness and forward movement. So think about that. So you're actually helping to repair your brain, because now you're approaching it with compassion and kindness. You're being kind to yourself. You're saying, okay, I've got this. Like, I'm not going to downgrade my body for keeping me safe. I'm not going to be angry at my body for keeping me safe. And so, prime example, like it wasn't my brain really, but I mean, it kind of is, because when you treat yourself with compassion, you're allowed to move forward. I was drove to Indiana today to go to one of our favorite stores, and it's about 45 minutes, maybe an hour. And normally the way that I go, they had that road blocked off. And so I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And so when I approached that stuckness, which was, them working on the road, I wasn't very compassionate towards them. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I want to get there. I want to get back. This is stupid. You had to pick, of all days, you had to pick this day. Then I was like, okay, well, um, so then I took a left. So I went down and I thought, okay, I can take the other way. It'll take me right into where I need to go. I'm fine. Well, that didn't work either. I got to that stop sign, went to turn right. Guess what happened? They were working on the road again, so I was stuck. And so again, I wasn't treating them with compassion. So I turned around and ended up going the other way. And then it hit me. Oh my goodness. Like, I need to have compassion because they're doing something that needs to be done. I need to have compassion because maybe God sent them in the way to protect me from something bad happening. And so by doing that, I became emotionally aware of what I was doing and complaining. And I changed that. I changed the way I was feeling and the way I was thinking to more of a forward thinking, a forward movement. So then I just said, you know what? I went 10 minutes out of my way or, whatever. It's fine. It wasn't, it was like, what was God trying to save me from? That's the way I looked at it at the end. And so, I was going to force my way through there to, just to save a few extra minutes. So it's kind of like with our healing, we don't want to force healing. You just need to create conditions that's going to make your brain feel safe so it'll re-engage. And so going back to that scenario as well, there were the conditions that I created was going a different direction that was open. And so that felt safe enough to me. So remember that as well. Amazing, isn't it? It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat how, as we learn all of this and people will be like, oh, it's laziness. But then, when I not really analyze, but I do analyze people from time to time. And then I was like, is it really laziness? Is it a trauma response? Like exactly what is it? A lot of people just don't know. And so, that's why here I try to talk about topics that a lot of people don't know about. Yeah, we know about laziness, but do we know about the anterior cingulate cortex and the prefrontal cortex? Do we know, what they do on the brain and what they don't do when when they're not working like they should be? And so take that in consideration. And so let's take a few minutes before we close for the evening. And what I'd like you to do is if you want to, I would like you to grab a notebook. And if you have one close or a piece of paper, or if not, you don't have to, but I want you to breathe and I want you to listen, because what I want you to do is I want you to really pay attention to these powerful prompts. And so what this does is it actually helps, again, reframe your language when you're trying to talk to yourself and kind of gather what's going on. So these are the things that I would ask my clients when I'm in session, and they would say, I feel lazy, this, and this, and I can't get motivated to do anything. I want to do this, but I can't, and I have good intentions, but I just can't do anything. My room's a mess, and I try to explain to them, like, look, it's not your fault. Like, this is a trauma response. It's not your fault, but we can work through this. We just have to get your ACC and your prefrontal cortex working again, but slowly, slowly, slowly. So what you want to do is what I say to them is, when you feel lazy, what sensations do you feel in your body? And then what you'll do is you will say, oh, I feel it in my shoulder. Okay, that's where I want you to write it down, because whatever you're going through, that is where it is. That's where the trauma is trapped, is in your shoulder. That's why you're getting that sensation there. What might my nervous system be protecting me from? Paying attention to your body, asking your body questions. It will answer you, trust me. I'm not talking about listening to the voices in your head and things like that. I'm saying your body will show you one way or another why. Or when you go into an area or you're doing something, you will have that discernment of, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't feel safe to me. And you will be able to have that. So how can I show my body safety instead of shame in those moments? How can I be more kind? How can I be more compassionate? What grounding or creative practice can you do that'll help you reconnect to movement and aliveness? What is something that you do that helps you in the moment? When you become activated, excuse me, you need grounding, or, just to kind of level out, what is it that you do? And this is just a good reflection of what you can do to help your body understand what's going on, or help you understand your body, what's going on, and help your brain understand. And so then what you want to do is kind of write down what's going on, what is coming up. That's why I love the art, because sometimes I don't have the words to speak, but the art will speak for me, and that's what I absolutely love. I love when the art will speak for me. It's like, hey, wait a minute. Excuse me, I didn't know that. So does anybody have any questions? You can put them in the chat if you have any questions. So what we call laziness is often the language of a body that's tired of surviving. When we meet that with exhaustion, when we meet that exhaustion with compassion, the brain begins to rewire. It's all about compassion. The ACC lights up again, motivation returns, and life starts to feel possible again. So you have to have compassion for yourself. You can't continue to be mean to yourself, say mean things to yourself, because you're not broken, you're healing. And your healing doesn't need to look productive. It needs to be, you just need to do it slow. It just needs to be slow. Like I always told you, it's not getting from here to here in a matter of a day. It's slowly getting there by just going through your stages and how you need to do it. So it doesn't need to look, productive to be profound. It doesn't. You just need to know that you're working on yourself. Remember that. And so, as always, if you would like to explore any of this deeper, you can visit artoftransformation.life. What you'll do is you'll learn more about the somatic art, the somatic coaching that I do, and what the workshops and the programs that I developed and designed to help your nervous system find safety through creative expressions. And if my email, I have my email, it's on my YouTube. So if at any time you have any questions, you're going back and replaying, or you're sharing and things like that, that's what I love, because some people will replay this, and it may be one of you, or it might be somebody else, and you might have a question about something. And so I think it's really important to have that available for somebody to ask questions. And as you see, I'm a real person, and I will answer your emails and things like that as well. And so don't ever think for a minute that you're alone, because again, we have a community of warriors here that are trauma survivors, and we are here for each other. And so that's really, how healing happens as well, is, through that interpersonal bridge, building that safety with other people and things like that too. So does anybody have any questions before we kind of get going for the evening and things like that? So I really appreciate each and every one of you being here, and stuff like that. I pray that you have a wonderful week, that you're blessed, be safe. If you could make sure that you like, subscribe, and share out the video, I would really appreciate that, because it's times like this and what we're going through that so many people that struggle with mental health really need to see these videos, because I think it would really, help them, bring them some inspiration and hope, as they're going through their own healing journeys as well, and things like that. And so until next time, be gentle, be curious, and remember, you're not lazy, you're healing. Good night, warriors.